Two troops can run the exact same program. One thrives for years, the other quickly fades away. What is the difference? It is scouting culture. Hey, ScouterStan, let's talk about scouting culture and traditions. Now, a lot of times in this video, I'm going to be referring to a troop. It's in the middle. This will apply to Cub Scouts with the pack. It will apply to a venture crew, and it will also apply to Sea Scouts. So don't tune out. A lot of the information and cultural things that we take for granted in scouting will be covered. And if you're new to leadership or want to just remember back when you were a scout, these are traditions that we hold dear, and it really helps the unit regardless of the variety. Now, one of the biggest ones out there, of course, is your opening or even closing ceremonies. These are quintessential to what scouting is about. We're very patriotic. We believe in God and country. And we usually start a meeting with an opening prayer, and then it goes right into a Pledge of Allegiance. And of course, you also have the Scout Oath and Scout Law, the core values of what scouting is about, regardless of what kind of unit you might have. This is a great way to do an opening for any meeting, any gathering, any campfire. This is a great thing to do. And over time, these are things that Scouts really remember and recall. The presentation of the colors is very important. It shows the flag. It shows the troop flag. If you're in a position with a council or a district, they might even have a flag for the council or district. So that's something that's really a big deal. In Wood Badge, they have a Gilwell Field, and they always have a flag that they put up that's ceremonial. There might be the original Betsy Ross with the little round stars and all that. That's something they do. But flag ceremonies are important. Now, the next big one, of course, is when the leader comes up and starts off with a safety moment. I've been in troops where the scouts, the youth, actually do those. Can't always have a scoutmaster up there doing that. You can rotate that. It might be good to have that as part of the rotation of things that all the patrols do, or the dens in a pack, or the crew. It could just vary from person to person, team to team. In a ship, the same way. But rotating it around, all of these things at the beginning, kind of gives everybody a chance to really put in that traditional thing to your meeting. Now, closing ceremonies can be very typical. With my experience, it's always been with a Scoutmasters Minute, where they talk about something that's very thought-provoking, that scouts think about for the rest of the week. They think about something very meaningful that's said right at the end of the meeting. And there's a lot of different closings, and that's a big thing. But those are very important. Now, in a scout troop, you may have a situation where you have like a rotor of different tasks that go through the different patrols. And that closing ceremony, retiring the colors, that is something that can be delegated to the different patrols, so that not one patrol is leaned on for all of it. It's important to give everybody a chance to do those kinds of things. And with some troops, you might have a troop yell that you all do. I was in a troop called 202. That was our number. And the kids always goofed off when they did group pictures. There'd always be one in there with his tongue sticking out. It was just typical, okay? So we said make it a goofy picture. So we came up with a cheer that was kind of goofy. It was the number 2 and the number 2. Oh, so we got all the scouts to do that, and it got it out of their system. So the next picture was nice smiles, looking at the camera. that was so hard for a bunch of teenagers to do. Yeah, that's the nice thing. We let them goof off, let them be scouts. But we got a serious and a nice picture that families enjoyed. Of course, after that big cheer, that kind of brings it up a little bit. And if you've actually seen the design of how campfires are designed, they're supposed to peak in the middle and then come back down. That's an important thing in closing out a meeting. You want to kind of bring it down a notch. And of course, after doing a cheer, that kind of brings it back up. So to really wrap it up, there might be a solemn moment where all the scouts circle around and sing. I know it's hard for teenagers to do that, but Scout Vespers. And this is something we did in my old troop. And all of the other traditions have come and gone and kind of been there, but that one is still there. I visit them on a regular basis, and they still do that. And it really puts it into perspective. It's one of those things. Scout Vespers can be almost haunting in a way, but in a good way. But it's an important that we look at the seriousness of a meeting and try to bring it back down to that level, so they can go to their tents or go home, the campfire or an event or a meeting. And these rituals really give scouts a feeling of belonging. This develops over time as scouting culture. Scout units love to tell stories of things that have happened, and this really helps develop the scouting culture within the unit. It's a great way for scouts to really find belonging to those. They could be funny stories, they could be serious stories. These are things that scouts remember. They recall that was talked about or presented in the meeting. A lot of times this could be a story about one of the Eagle Scouts that did an incredible project, and they might need to do maintenance of it. So there might be a way of bringing it up so that story of that Eagle Scout's achievement can really belong to the unit. And those are wonderful stories. One of the stories could be a legacy campout, like a canoe trip that rained the entire time, and there was a lot of portaging over logs and stuff in the river. Those are stories that really help define the culture, the history of the scouting unit. These are great things to recall, and maybe just a quick mention of them at a court of honor. That's a great place for that. Another great cultural thing to do is to bring back retired leaders, maybe founding leaders of the unit, and talk about the early days and what they had to do. That would be a great presentation at a court of honor. It'd be a great presentation at any scout meeting. So that's a wonderful thing. It's important for scout units to really think about their past. Think about all the camporees and campouts and all the things they've done, all the community projects, those kinds of things. But having a board with photographs on it of the scouts in the past, and even patches, that is something that could be put together, and it really helps bring that history around. There is a youth position, historian position, within the unit that can actually facilitate putting that together. That should be there so that there is a foundation, a past, so that the future, all the things they do and all the great times they have, should be logged in and written down and put together so that it can be presented. This is something for new scouts, new parents to see, It's a great way to keep that legacy alive. Patrol identity and pride is essential. In the patrol method, this is a critical thing. The patrol yell is something that is memorized by the patrol members and the rest of the troop because it should be constantly there. That enthusiasm is very important. Make sure that all your patrols have a patrol yell. It's actually part of the very first requirements. So that's important. If you're in a pack, every den should have some kind of yell. It has to be scout appropriate, but there's a yell out there. The bears always have a growl. The wolves always have a howl. So, and that's true for every one of their critters. So the Weeblos, we're not sure. That's up to the Weeblos to decide. But in a troop, you have lots of opportunities to get that yell and make sure that's a big part of what you do. The patrol method is extremely important. It was developed by Baden-Powell. It is the way to really run your scouting. And there's a video on the very subject. So definitely check that out. There's so much things that you're gonna hear more about this. There's a lot of stuff going on within a patrol, and it's where the excitement happens within that patrol. And when they're getting ready for big adventures, it is all done from their patrol. So definitely check it out. Another one is, of course, the flag. You need a patrol flag. That's one of those things that is critical to really build up that support. When you're doing the yell, you got to have the flag out there so that they see the bacon ninjas, okay, as a patrol. You got to have that on a flag because it's very hard for adults to actually comprehend what that is without seeing the flag. There's a lot of that kind of stuff, but it's, the moose would have a moose on their flag, or antlers on top of the flagpole. I mean, there's a lot of different things they can do. They can come up with all kinds of ideas, and they would have one of the scouts within the patrol would be the one who would start it off, and they would say, the moose is on the loose, and then they would stomp their feet. It was a great cheer, and it really brought it all together. That scouting tradition was there. You also had all the cultural things that goes on within scouting. The camaraderie between the scouts, so critical. Patrol competitions can be all kinds of things. You could be as simple as the senior patrol leader going in front and saying, who's the best patrol here? That's when everything goes crazy. So definitely look at some of the cultural things and the competitions between them. Neat. There are many neat traditions that are passed down within a patrol or a den, if you're in Cub Scouts. But for troops, you could do all kinds of things. There are opportunities for the scouts to be den chiefs, troop guides, troop instructors. These are positions they could hold, and they can be passed down within that patrol. Of course, this all has to be kind of authorized by the Scoutmaster. So it's very important that gets clearance before it happens. But that is something that happens within a patrol. Now, one of the most fascinating things that they do inside of a scout troop, and this is true with a lot of units that have a first year emphasis patrol. And they usually, for a year, there's a troop guide that works in there. There's a troop instructor, an assistant scoutmaster. They're all there to really help the new scouts just kind of get used to what's going on within the unit. And that patrol method and everything, and understanding that. But at the end of that, they get sorted or put into other patrols. Sometimes they just make that the patrol. Automatically it becomes its own patrol, and they might take one or two and put them in other patrols. It really depends. A lot of times I recommend that patrols especially should take the new scouts and equally put them in all of the different patrols within the troop. That way you have new scouts in those patrols, and as the older scouts age away, you've got those patrols still going. So it's important to keep that going. The troop that I love this. They had the idea from Harry Potter. There's a sorting hat ceremony at the very first Harry Potter, and where they put a hat on the person and they get put into a house in Harry Potter. In this, they do the exact same thing, only they use Baden-Powell's hat. And they put it on the scout, and of course they get announced, hey, you're going to be in the Ravens, or you're going to be in the Moose, or whatever patrol. It's a great way to kind of bring that true. And having those ceremonies are a wonderful way to really making it memorable. I know a lot of scouts that just thought that was the ultimate. I mean, it really was a lot of fun to really get that going and to have that moment. So think about it. You can come up with all kinds of ceremonies. Many units will have a signature annual event that's really look forward to. Something like a winter survival camp, or just a survival island if you have an island you could go to. It doesn't have to be in winter. So these are big things that troops put together just for fun. And of course you could put that in the comments if you have something that's really cool. We'd love to see that, and maybe other units might be inspired. But there's all these signature events that go on within a unit, and they could be things like a canoe trip that's done every year, different rivers or different lakes that they do the canoeing on. That could be done, or hiking adventures. That could actually be something that goes on. Like the older scouts do a hike in a national forest in your area. That is a wonderful thing. Of course, you have to look at the logistics of it all, but those are great things that scouts and patrols look forward to. Another big thing in the culture of scouting is having alumni from your unit come to a camp out. They can participate and present things that they did when they were part of that. That can also be scouts, former scouts that are now adults, just visiting for the day. That is a fantastic thing. That really brings that scouting culture all together. There are a lot of neat competitions you could do, like ridiculous ingredients cooking competition with all the patrols. There can be a thing like Iron Skillet, coming up with the best dinner. Something that the youth can really put together. So these are things that they can do in a camping situation. So you got to put that out to the scout and make sure you're out there and have them really be creative, because you're going to see different ones. Some are not going to want to participate. Some are going to want to lead. Some are going to want to really just be help. They don't want to take on the leadership of it. This is a great way to get that leadership thing developed and going within that scout culture, that traditions of a competition. Hey, before we go any further, I want to make sure that you know that you're personally invited to come to the Campfire Chat. It's a live meeting we hold on the very first Sunday of each month, starting at 9 p.m. Please join us with your questions, and we will answer those live on the show. In addition, I want to also thank all of the Patreon supporters that are helping support what we do here. Also, if you want to get directly involved with the channel, we have a membership. Hit the join button and it will give you more information about how to get involved in supporting what we do. And in that, here's a list of all the people that are continuing their support of our channel. Now, there are a lot of celebrations that need to occur. For instance, the very first campout, there should be some kind of recognition of scouts that they've never gone camping. And their very first one can be dramatic. It's different. It's something that you don't get in school. You going out into the woods with the troop, and of course safety is the factor and all that kind of stuff, but they should be recognized for that bravery, because the scout is brave. They should be recognized. There should be something, a mention of first night camping. That is a big achievement. Think about it. All of his peers at school don't. So guess what? he's done something, or he or she has done something that none of them have done, that would want to do it. That's a big accomplishment. And these are things that are big in recognizing those achievements. There's also ceremonies, for unique ceremonies out there for Eagle Scouts. Now, a lot of troops have a traditional template that they use. That's fine if the scout wants that. The scout really, the Eagle Scout, determines their ceremony. There are a lot of ceremonies out there on the internet. Please read through them. Some of them are not permitted, okay? There's several that are no longer in really being sponsored or promoted, okay? But there's a lot of different ceremonies. So having something unique as the Eagle Scout is important. So let them put that together. If it's a tradition within your troop to use a very set format for the Eagle, that might be something they want, because they've seen that ceremony. They want that same ceremony. So that tradition is kept going. You can do unique ones. I've been in part of some really unusual ones with scripts and plays and all kinds of stuff going on. It can be very elaborate, and that's great. That really, the Scouts love seeing those. Those are wonderful events, and they love the standard template ones too. Now, some troops also do a thing called Rookie Award. This is for the first year emphasis Scouts, and if they've gone camping and they've cooked while they were camping, they've put up their own tent, those kinds of things, and they're working on their advancement, that right there qualifies them for this Rookie Award. Okay, just starting off, Rookie Scout. Okay, it can be something very simple. It could be a woggle. Okay, it could be something like that that's awarded to them, and they get to wear that as a big deal because they've achieved, and it should be recognized. So that first year emphasis patrol is a wonderful thing. Now, you also want to recognize leadership milestones, especially at courts of honor. Make sure that your adult leaders are acknowledged. It should not be all. They should only get like 10% of the time, but there should be some recognition of those scout leaders, scout facing and behind the stage. They should all be recognized appropriately. That is a tradition that goes way back, and it's purely to stay within the scout law of being courteous and kind, friendly. Those are laws. So that tradition falls through to that recognition of your adult leadership. There are leadership traditions for handing off to another leader coming in. For instance, your senior patrol leader would bring up the new senior patrol leader and give them the troop's walking stick or a hat or their position patch in a ceremony. This is really common and very traditional. You have to keep that going, because otherwise there's no recognition of that changeover. You have to have that so that the scouts and even the scout leaders and parents know that there's a leadership change. That's the important thing of that ceremony. It can be a solemn ceremony with lights dimmed and flags and all that. It's up to the unit to really make that happen. Now, a big tradition that a lot of units do is that right after they do their troop elections for all the different positions and appointments that go on, that is something that the troop does as a group. They'll have a leadership weekend, introduction to scouting skills for a troop. This is something that's done within the troop. There's a syllabus, and that's usually done at that weekend. So it's a way of getting the new leadership involved and getting their ideas and what they want to achieve, what kind of adventures they want to have, and how to be a leader within the unit. It's so important that they go through that. Now, they also have that for venture crews, and I believe they also have it for Sea Scouts. So look into it. Now, with senior scouts, they also are mentors for the newer scouts. So this should be recognized. That's a tradition that goes way back. It's important that your patrols have a mix of seasoned scouts that have been in there for a long time, Star Scouts, Life Scouts, even Eagle Scouts. They need to have new scouts that are just first class. They need to have those in there so they can mentor them and make sure that they're doing okay, and that the patrol, that brotherhood that comes through, that comes through in a patrol, is so special and important. That's one of those things that really is important, and we should not disregard that. Now, within every patrol, there should be a den chief. And this is something that I have talked about a lot. I believe that one of the most important positions in scouting is a den chief. It's a youth position. And that's very critical to bringing scouts from Cub Scouts into a troop. So this is something that needs to be recognized. So when there's achievements made for that den leader or the den chief, make sure that they are recognized within the troop. And that's the thing. They're between both worlds of a pack and a troop. So they have to be able to handle all of the logistics there. So it's a big job. And it should be recognized whenever there's a turnover or a change, or they move up a notch to another den. That's very important for a den chief. These are things that they need to be recognized for. Now, in that, if you're not familiar with what a den chief and how important that position is, check out the video about den chiefs. It's so important. Please don't think you don't need them. You need them. They are very important. Service traditions. There are a ton of service out there. Something like Memorial Day, parades. Those are things that are so critical to getting scouting going and getting involved in that. Working with veterans. They bring scouts in open arms. Okay, that's the neat thing about it. A lot of people kind of have this attitude that there's a separation. We're scouts. We believe in America. So veterans are a natural. Okay, that's the neat thing about scouting. We also do conservation. There should be at least 2 or 3 times on your calendar where the unit does something conservation or a service project for your community. You can't wait for an Eagle project to come along. That's important. But those other service projects should be part of what you do on a regular basis. Whether it be scouting for food or doing the safety boxes or all kinds of things that are out there. The traditions in your unit are amazing. So definitely keep those alive. And speaking of the unit's traditions, also think about your charter. There are traditions. There are things they need from your unit. So keep that alive. Keep that charter happy. That's the thing. You gotta work on that. And a lot of that is to do with scouting culture and the scouting traditions that we do. It's a natural. So definitely get them involved. Get your chartered organization rep, the COR, to really be a part of your committee, be a part of your troop, be a part of your pack, your crew, your ship. It's so important. Now there's traditions that actually build humor and fun within the unit. And these can vary. It really depends. And a lot of this is just recognizing something that went bad, like a tarp that fell over and got everybody wet. Okay? It happens. And then that becomes something that, they sing about, dancing in the rain, that kind of thing. That's the wonderful thing. There's a lot of those traditions that a lot of troops have. And it's, when you're hearing about all this fun and all these different things that are going on, and you're thinking, gee, our unit doesn't do that. They don't do that. Maybe they should start. Now is the time. They need to really start thinking about fun things that have happened. Believe me, it might be, everybody got wet. No, that's tragic. No, just get a towel. Okay? Smile. Be, friendly. Be happy. Those are things that scouts do, especially through traditions. Come up with some kind of reward. Like, for instance, the Burnt Pancake Award is popular with a lot of units. And it's just, I've actually got a slide that's a pancake. It's a tiny little pancake and it's burnt to a crisp. So there's things like that are very fun. Those are things that you can do as a reward. And it should be done in a fun way, not in a bullying way. Okay, so you have to think about it, and it should be done as a group, maybe. The patrol that got the Burnt Pancake Award, they get one to put on their flag, on their patrol flag. It's a fun thing. That fun thing can actually go into, for instance, a camp out that had a very funny skit that they do all the time, but this particular patrol did it better than anything you've seen. They should be recognized. Okay, that's a fun thing. Have an award, the Academy Award, have them present it. Have the envelope please and all the opening the envelope and do the whole thing. That is something, a skit of the year. Now what's neat about it is you don't have to spend a lot of money because that is only given for 1 year to that patrol. They don't get to keep it. That's the thing. It gets passed on. And it becomes that tradition. They have to pass it back up to the stage, and they're recognized for that thing that they did, that the burnt pancake or the wonderful thing that they did at the campfire. Then they get another one that's awarded to another patrol or back to the same patrol. So it's a competition. The patrols participate in those competitions. That builds that patrol method. That builds that patrol spirit. And that also builds troop and unit. And whether it be a Cub Scout pack, a crew, or a ship, it builds that tradition. And those traditions become the culture. There is a real danger in not having these events, not having this recognition, not having that kind of culture within the scouting unit, it's a danger. A lot of units just become boring without them. It's important that we as scouters really promote them and get them out there. This is very important for not only your unit, because character is a big thing with scouts, and with a culture. It's not something that's just made overnight. It's something you do on a regular basis, and it really defines what scouting is about. Now, in scouting, scouts join a unit for adventure, to have that program that's there. That's why they join. But the traditions of your unit are what keeps them coming back. That's the wonderful thing. You gotta have that tradition, and that tradition intentionally builds the scouting culture. Something to really think about. If you have something that you do in your unit that's unique, different, that you've never heard anybody else doing, please put it in the comments. And of course, if you need more reference material, there's a ton down in the description. Just hit the more, and that'll take you there. You do so much for your scouts. Please keep up that good, hard work. It is so critical. Always remember that the patrol method is important and critical to the success of your troop. So important. So with that, I want to invite you to go see the video on the award for patrols. So check that out. Until next time, I'll see you on the trail.